So what Carl was talking about was yesterday we had the Telit Innovation Conference here. Many in the audience were probably there. We had a great time, some fantastic content, some time to mingle and network as well. I appreciate everybody that was here to help us put that on. My name is Fred Yentz. I am the CEO of Telit IoT Platforms. For the most part, think of that as the services side of Telit. And I am very excited to spend a little bit of time with you, and I know that I'm between you and lunch. So I will make sure that we are completely in a timely fashion. So let's first talk about Telit. If you don't know who Telit is, let me take a couple of minutes and explain. We have a global presence in the IoT space. We wake up every day and all we think about is IoT. We have labs around the world. We create modules and technologies that work on operators around the world. We have around 900 employees traded on the London Exchange and thousands of customers. We've been in this business for a very long time. So when you think about who could take you to this place called an IoT solution, I like to refer to our team as sort of the IoT solution Sherpas. So it might look scary sometimes to get to the top of the mountain. Maybe you haven't done it before, but I'm going to talk to you today about how IoT is actually very tangible. Last year I spoke here during actually a luncheon talk, and I talked about IoT getting real. And I somewhat, I don't want to say blamed, but I kind of accused ourselves, the ecosystem, around trying to make it or talking about technology all the time and potentially giving the enterprise buyer more fear, uncertainty, and doubt than maybe was deserved. Because we actually have a lot of really cool tools that are coming online or are online to make realization of solutions possible and let people really think about re-engineering their business, not really worried about all the bits and bytes in technology. John did a great job this morning talking about some of the challenges that we have in bandwidth, et cetera, and some cool technologies. And Mary Beth talked about platforms and how do we get people engaged. I guess the progression of this is pretty good. I'm going to talk about if I were an enterprise, what would I think about? So Telit has some offerings. We bring a pretty robust set of tools in the toolbox to solve IoT challenges. We're a module company. We are shipping millions and millions of modules a year, and we're deploying those modules in people's things, gizmos, gadgets. They're making all kinds of innovative technology moves to change the way businesses and consumers interact. We're in the connectivity and connectivity management business. So when I talk about this is we have resale agreements. We can help people get to kind of a one-stop, one-shop. We can offer data plans, et cetera. But we also really accommodate the idea of bring your own data plan. We have technology that will help you manage that. So people talk about the provisioning layer as the CDP. We have basically a CDP of CDPs. So if you're an enterprise and you're running on the Verizon network and you're running on the Vodafone network, we'll plug into GDSP and we'll plug into the Verizon provisioning engine. And that gives one layer where people can kind of get to work without having to worry about all the details. And then finally, it's our IoT platform side of the business. And this is how we transform information coming off of things and turn it into value at the enterprise side or at the consumer side. We're talking about enterprise, so I'll refer to it a lot about enterprise today. So let's think about it from the point of view of an enterprise. Acme bicycles. Let's think about somebody making bikes. They're a manufacturer, maybe call myself an owner. I'm the owner of Acme Bikes. I've heard about this thing called IoT. My peers, buddies at the golf club, guys that are on board of directors of other companies, you can't escape the noise on TV and advertisements, etc., about the possibility of connected things. They might be brilliant machines. They might be smarter planets. There's a variety of messages that are hitting the public, but people actually understand this. And they're understanding that there's probably an opportunity there, but they're getting nervous about how to implement. And they know if they don't, maybe their competitors are. So if I'm Acme Machines, and bicycles, and I want to figure out how do I maybe optimize my supply chain. I'm building bikes. I want to figure out how to maybe connect those bikes if I'm going to be in the business of managing maybe a customer experience, because I then ship those bikes to a customer. It might be a customer, a fleet, might be bike rentals right here on the Fort Lauderdale beach. But that's my business, and I've been doing this for a long time. So this IoT thing seems to be very disruptive to the way I work. When I think about what happens here, I hear this word sometimes called Industry 4.0, or the industrial Internet of Things. I'm a manufacturer. I'm an enterprise. I make bikes. I sell bikes. I service bikes. And bikes could be anything. It could be cars. It could be tractors. It could be tenant floor sweepers, which was one of the featured cases yesterday. But this is not what my core business is. This is some things I have to really think through. Now, when we think about connecting, the picture doesn't change. It changed on the right because it's now a mobile phone instead of the human. But I still have to make bikes, transform raw materials into a bike, ship a bike, and manage the service life cycle of a bike. What's interesting is this thing called Industrial 4.0 or the Industrial Revolutions. If I'm thinking about IoT and I'm a manufacturer, this is a term that bombards me, and it kind of confuses me too. And everybody wondered, why is Industry 4.0 the word? Why did the German, Angela Merkel and the community in Germany decide to call it Industry 4.0? It's the fourth thing in the revolution. So, mechanical infrastructure, electrification, automation, and now we're adding the network. Okay, great. But I'm a manufacturer. Make this easy for me. And I think I'm a little nervous because I'm a smart guy. I hear about things like hype curves. I hear about things like maybe it's too early to jump in. There's this thing that I have to now deal with in manufacturing or industrial IoT or the Internet of Things in general is where am I on this? And people say I'm maybe up on the top, maybe I'm climbing the side. It's all there. Maybe it's just a little too scary. But what I really am doing is I'm only making that last step. And here, I think, is where it starts to get interesting. And I won't fight with the analysts. This is Fred's opinion. I hope you have an opinion when I'm done with this. This is just to be provocative and make you think. But automation began in 1969. That's when that 3.0 started. So I would suspect that we're pretty far to the right of the curve in terms of productivity in plateaus. What's interesting here is we hear about the economy all the time and how much output and worker utilization there is with automation and everything else. Well, the internet, that's not new. I mean, I think Al Gore invented it, as he said, in 1990. So I would guess the way we think about business every day, the way we make an airline reservation, the way we check in, the way we call an Uber car, the internet's pretty mature. We're probably pretty far down the right side of that curve. All right, let's get hard. Let's talk about wireless technologies, the wireless internet. That's not really a newbie either. We probably couldn't even survive without our smartphones and the applications that run on them. Now we're always throttling, for more bandwidth. We're always trying to create new apps. But you know what? It's probably out there too. So if Industry 4.0 in the industrial Internet of Things, or really IoT in general, is a combination of the physical world merged with the network world, I just want to beg the question, where really are we here? This isn't, it's transformational and revolutionary the way it will change our businesses, but this is not a technology challenge per se. These pieces exist. Now, they were disparate silos, and they were hard to manage, for sure. But how do we figure out how to get the business owners more excited about making this jump? Are you interested in interoperability? Are you interested in smarter, more autonomous factories? Are you interested in decentralization? These are all some things that get published when people talk about, again, Industry 4.0. The one second from the bottom is probably the most unique, and it's this whole service orientation. How do I turn my physical space and my assets maybe into an OpEx or a servitization kind of a model? But at the end of the day, that previous slide, a lot of information. What it really comes down to is how do I reshape my business and how do I enable sustainable differentiation? And what advantages can I build? Again, this shouldn't be hard. How do I figure this out? But these guys keep talking about technologies. They don't talk about answers. They don't talk about paths. Well, when I think about sustainable differentiation, I've got things like predictive maintenance. SAP, Oliver spoke yesterday about the CapEx in the world of manufacturing, and it was such a staggering number, I don't even remember what it was. It was like $50 trillion, and 10% of that is spent every year in maintaining stuff that the world uses. So it's the TAM on just maintaining and doing things like predictive maintenance and improving it just a few percentage points is huge for the industry, but it's also huge for the owner of all the CapEx, wherever it may exist. Product lifecycle management. How do I get feedback? How do I build a better bike? That's what I really want to know. Because now I'm actually building maybe an e-bike. How do I figure out how to make a better battery for my e-bike when I understand riding profiles of my consumer? So there's all kinds of really neat things that happen here. Again, building the case for IoT, but having a discussion with an enterprise owner that figures out he can change his business as opposed to a bunch of technology guys scaring an enterprise owner on why not to make the transition. Hey, you better wake up and smell the coffee, right? If you're in a business that's a bricks and sticks business and you've been doing something for a really long time, the world can change pretty quickly. GE, power by the hour. That's a great example. It's highly used. But how can you become a very competitive hotel threat or hoteling threat in different geographies and not even own a building or a room, not hire the services and pay the bills that you need to keep this physical plant open? Airbnb's done it. Many of you, I am sure, took an Uber ride sometime in the last 3 days. They don't own the taxis. Very cool stuff. So don't think change can't happen to you. It can, and it can happen quickly as an enterprise owner. The world changes fast. Now, I can't get on a stage really anywhere without bringing it back to three things. If I'm an enterprise and I have to do something with technology, and in this case we're talking IoT, there's no way I can do it and build a solid business case and maintain what I'll call executive champions or executive leadership around an initiative unless I can figure out how to make money with this initiative, save money with this initiative, or potentially I have some government policy or some corporate compliance or something else that I have to deal with. Now, everybody says in this, you're missing one. You're missing a better customer experience. I say, yes, I'm missing it. I grant you that. What does a better customer experience lead you to? Probably one of these three. So I net it down to these three because someone has to create an ROI model to make this work. Now, there's some challenges. Again, I'm looking at this with my eyes wide open. I might not have the right skill set in my company. I make bikes. But the answer there is education and partnership. We're very happy to offer what we call DeviceWise University. We offer it all the time. We've got a station set up in Boca. We take it on the road a couple of times per quarter. It's an outstanding place for people to come in, whether they're partners, whether they're system integrators, whether they're operator partners, to come in and learn about how do I connect, manage, integrate, and solve solutions. Now, complexity. I did mention that there were some disparate things that had to come together here to make this actually work. But those individual technologies were pretty stable and pretty far down the curve. This is where you get the value of a platform. So one of our core assets at Telit is this platform we call DeviceWise. When we offer it as a service, we call it our IoT portal. But DeviceWise allows you to bring on board, on the left side of this chart, all kinds of different things. It allows me to integrate to my existing businesses. It allows me to integrate to my CapEx machining stuff that's on the plant floor. On the right side of this, it allows me to integrate into my existing applications. This isn't a forklift upgrade. I can take existing things in my existing apps, and I can just tie them together and make them work better, faster, and get more value sooner. But I also want to have opportunities to create great strides in innovation. So I might tie into SAP HANA and do some analytics that I never did before. Or I might tie into a low-power, unlicensed spectrum network to bring in things, as John said, more affordably than maybe I ever did before. But there's some cool things that happen here. In teaching someone how to use it and apply it to their business and not worry about the chess puzzle, or the chess game that's going on around you with technology is critical. The last one I think is the most interesting because there's threats. The threat, for the most part, is taking a look in the mirror and understanding your business and understanding what the competitive threats are and what the opportunity costs might be, the organizational disruption. Oh my gosh, I made bikes, now I'm going to be in the data business. We have a great story of a customer that manages logistics for French fry oil into the fast food space. They started out basically with a logistics optimization tool. Now they're collecting data and they're selling it to the franchise owners. They're selling it to the makers of the machines. They went from somebody, and I joke, and I don't know that the reality of this is there, but to start that kind of business, they probably knew a guy who knew a guy that had a line on French fry oil. Now, the new COO is a guy that basically is a Nielsen data guy. So they transformed their business. They went from somebody who did logistics of fryer oil to someone who was actually selling and managing data. They transformed their business. But this is cool because this is nobody but yourselves. As a business owner, someone has to be the champion. We've heard this time and time and time again as we go through and we talk to and engage with customers. And we have thousands of customers. Someone has to be the business champion. And when I think about the business champion, it's someone who has to understand the risks, understand how we can get help and opportunity, and how we can make this a reality. So what I can end up with, ultimately, is I can end up with a connected enterprise. I can do maybe better production planning, real-time supply chain management. I can have smarter factories. I can maybe not have as many people doing machine repair because I'm going to outsource that back to the guy I bought the machine from because they know more about that machine than anybody else on the planet. They built it. I'm going to maybe instrument that bike. I'm going to do some cool apps that people start gamifying and understanding who's a better rider. Why do I buy my bike? How do I make a better bike? So there's really neat things that I can do if I can get that partnership, the ecosystem down pat, and I can take that risk and understand what that risk is. So at the end of the day, when I look at how do I connect an enterprise and how do I make a decision, Telit brings those three pillars to bear. We deliver modules and technologies that allow you to instrument those things, connect them. Whether it's the telematics asset on the truck, whether it's a track and trace device in a high-value pallet, or whether it's actually on the device I build as cost of goods and it goes on that bike so that I can instrument that bike later. From a connectivity point of view, I can give you services, Telit can give you services, or we can manage services that you've acquired from someone else to make sure that you're optimizing that rate plan, those data plans, the cost of service, the cost of doing business. And we can provide you with that third pillar, which we call the IoT portal, to build applications quickly. So end to end, having a Sherpa, an IoT Sherpa that can get you to where you need to be, that understands the value of open, that understands the value of business, and that has an incredibly deep understanding of all the technology pieces and parts that it takes to make it happen, is why we're here. So I want to thank you guys for taking the time to listen. And we're down at booth 1703. There's a lot of stuff to see down there. And I would prefer to, at this point in time, just take some questions.
Okay. The first question is, how come you guys aren't clapping? So give them a round of applause, please. Okay. Now, audience. Okay, I know you're tired. Here, everybody together. Raise your hands, both hands. Come on, everybody raise your hands. Now wave them vehemently. Okay? Now some of you know what's coming next. When you're done, if you've got a question, keep your hand up. Otherwise, put them down. No? Okay. Here's the first question then, Fred. So one of the things that I see going on in Industry 4.0 is there's a lot of opportunity for partners to kind of co-locate, like what ABB's been doing, where they've actually kind of put cages over by the manufacturers to make it so they've got replacement parts. Do you see that kind of evolution coming along for other aspects of IoT?
So partnering is huge in any IoT solution set, but in the Industry 4.0 space, we find that we have a great partnership with companies like SAP because they actually own a substantial part of that market on the ERP and MRP side. So making sure that we're tied into the application providers that actually drive that manufacturing line in those locations is really, really important. So having a tight technical tie with them is vital. On the backside of that solution, they're driving demand signals and things like that to operators. The other thing that's important is, this solution will ultimately dovetail and integrate into the key automation vendors' equipment. So we have phenomenal relationships. We have an OEM embedded relationship with Mitsubishi. We're embedded inside of Siemens controllers. We have a completely open and technically sound relationship with Rockwell Automation. We talk to all the different pieces and parts, so kind of connecting into that physical world, whether it's a nut runner, a furnace, a Modbus, a building controller. Those are the kind of things that I think has about 30 years of, literally 30 calendar years of building this technology portfolio. So partnering with those on the OT side, the physical controller guys, and partnering with the IT guys is important.
Okay. The next question that I got for you is, in the community that you've got built around you, how do you see, I don't want to say disparate, but how do you manage getting all the analytics right and getting to the information that you want from people?
So that's actually a super question too, Carl. So first of all, I will be one of the first guys up here on a platform side of the business to say most IoT platforms, when we think about how that stack works from connectivity management, data management, up through app integration and app management, because again, it's an application enablement platform. We don't do the deep analytics. I mean, there's companies that spend a lifetime and tons of money to be really good at that. So typically, the first guy that shows you, hey, we're an analytics company too, and we're this company, and we're that company, you got to kind of figure out what you're good at and not. So we partner with, again, companies like the SAP HANAs, the Google Big Table, BigQuery, GCP folks. So we're pushing information into almost any application. And to us, analytics is an application.
Okay. All right.
The second half of that question,
Go ahead.
How do you get the right data in?
Yeah, and I was thinking about your KSI stuff that we've talked about in the past, but go ahead.
So the big thing is, most of the good information to collect is known by the ops guy, the OT guy on or close to that automation. And we have to give them a tool that allows them to take their knowledge of the operations and how to work in that machine world and easily configure it and send alarms, events, payloads northbound. And whether it's a Mitsubishi controller or whether it's an Emerson controller, it doesn't matter. You should have one common tool that allows you to move very important information up into that space for action.
Excellent. One last, we have a question. And of course, he's not helping me by getting anywhere near me. So these exercise tools I need a Fitbit.
Hello, my name is Aryan from University of Rochester. Actually, I'm wondering, for any kind of industrial application, you will have one part of monitoring and then control, correct? So I'm wondering, is there any security standard specifically designed for IoT which you have already incorporated in your system for the control part specifically?
Absolutely. So there's two camps. Whenever you talk about the Industry 4.0 initiatives or industrial IoT, quite frankly, any IoT solution, because it's the mashup of physical world to kind of the network world. There's the OT guys, the ops, the plant floor guys in the factory case. They don't even get along with the IT guys. Matter of fact, they tend to not spend much time with them at all. They don't like them that much. They have different KPIs, different metrics, different managers, everything. So what we have in the solution at the edge that's completely under plant OT control is role-based security that allows operators to see operator information, access to be controlled and administered by them and approved conditionally based on context. When I say context, you have a robot arm and it's swinging. The last thing you want to do at that time is probably let somebody make a change to the program. You want to make sure that maybe a machine's in lockdown. So you have context from that machine and then you can maybe access. But in terms of monitoring and seeing data, you can completely carve out exactly what the OT guy will allow the IT guy to see. Now, mirror image that. The IT guy doesn't want a whole lot of information shared with the OT guy either. Maybe credentials to a system, but they want to do inserts into a SQL database. Leave me alone, that's all I need. You can't have any more information than that. So the whole idea is to really make sure that you have a beautiful sandbox where both people want to throw sand at each other, but you put a nice piece of plexiglass in between with some solid rules that they can ultimately work together in one unified platform. And that's actually what makes it work. So a great question.
So I do have one last one that was kind of whispered in my ear. Do I have time?
Yeah.
Managing devices and trying to manage the whole configuration function and those kind of issues.
Right.
When you look at it from an industrial standpoint, what are some of the drivers and some of the important things to think about?
So again, frequently in an industrial environment, you're talking down to machines that have a variety of different protocols and they have their own intelligence. Remember, they were those autonomous Industry 3.0 automation devices before. So you need to be able to reach down into there and you need to be able to take and consume their program, move it up, maybe modify it remotely, and do what we would typically call site-wide configuration management or enterprise-wide configuration management. So doing campaigns. Maybe I want to update all Rockwell controllers in these type of factories east of the Mississippi. And I want to push something out, start that campaign, and do that update. So campaigns, in addition to other device management functions, are available in the platform, in the DeviceWise platform. Yeah.
Excellent. And with that, young man, guess what? The audience is tired, so we're going to let them have a break. We didn't give them a break at all. I'm very impressed with how long they stayed with us. So give yourself and Fred a round of applause.
Thank you, guys.